I am your presenter, Jessica Klein. First, on the local scene. November 9th, 2022, saw St. Vincent and the Grenadines Commissioner of Police, Mr. Colin John, supervised the destruction of 40,343 pounds of cannabis and 135.5 kilos of cocaine. The illegal drugs were seized by the police during operations between 2019 and 2022. The cases involving the drugs have been concluded in court, therefore, an order was made by the court for the destruction of the drugs. The drugs were burnt at the Rabuka Dry River and was witnessed by senior police officers, including Superintendents of Police, Mr. Benzel Samuel, officer in charge of the Rapid Responses Unit, RRU, and Mr. Hezron Ballantyne, Divisional Commander of the Eastern Division, Assistant Superintendents of Police, Mr. Foster Scott, Officer in charge of the Special Services Unit, SSU, Mrs. Juliana Charles, Officer in charge of the Narcotics Unit, Mr. Julian Simmons, Officer in charge of the Public Relations and Complaint Department, Police Chaplain, Pastor Adolphus Isaacs, Justice of the Peace, Mr. James Brown, and the media. The street value of the cannabis destroyed amounts to 20,171,995 EC dollars, while the cocaine is valued at $2,710,000. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves has said that the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is not responsible for building back walls on private property, and sometimes homeowners should consider relocating. He noted that there has been a lot of rain on mainland and the Grenadines recently, resulting in landslides and the collapse of some retaining walls, adding that some back walls are needed. Speaking on NBC Radio on Wednesday, Gonsalves said, "Let us first of all be realistic. The government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines can't be responsible for your own back wall." He said, "The government of SVG would intervene where if it is a personal back wall that connects to, links, concerns the safety of the public, or adjoins the public roads, a place where people pass a lot, where serious public safety and welfare is involved." Though the Prime Minister had not highlighted any specific retaining wall, his comments came at a time where there is discussion in the public sphere about a retaining wall along the main road in Sion Hill that is showing signs of failure. Still on the local scene, the Diamond area in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is set to become a bustling hub for tourism. Among the hotels being constructed in that area is the Maya Luxury Suites Hotel, owned by Vincentian businessman Elliot McDowell. The facility is scheduled to be completed by late December 2022. At a cost of $18 million, the 40-room facility boasts a conference room that can host up to 100 participants, a bar and pool area, as well as a presidential and royal suite. Dr. Gonsalves congratulated Mr. McDowell on his venture, noting that the hotel is an investment that will certainly extend the room stock on mainland St. Vincent. The Prime Minister added that other Vincentians can make similar investments by taking advantage of concessions by the government when establishing hotels. Area Representative Honorable Camilo Gonsalves said the construction of the hotel is an ideal location with its proximity to the Argyle International Airport and comes at a time when there is an uptick in tourism. In the region, poor storage practices at Guyana's Ministry of Public Health and other health facilities resulted in $950 million being wasted over 3 years due to expired, spoiled, and damaged drugs and medical supplies. Over 4,000 spoiled vaccines were seen among usable supplies. Supplies were damaged in private warehouses because there were no arrangements specifying storage conditions. This was revealed in a performance audit done by Guyana's Auditor General's Office on the management of drugs and medical supplies, at the Ministry of Public Health and Regional Health Facilities. The performance audit, which covered the period January 1st, 2015 to August 15, 2018, was done to assess how well the supplies were managed, given that over $3 billion was spent from 2015 to 2017 to buy supplies. The Ministry of Public Health and the Regional Democratic Councils are responsible for buying and distributing drugs and medical supplies to citizens. And according to the audit report, the audit work was hampered repeatedly because the ministry and the councils did not provide requested documents and did not respond to the audit reports. It was stated too that poorly written contracts led to over 300 million being paid out without receiving the drugs and supplies purchased. More in the region. The World Health Organization's Global Vaccine Market Report 2022, published yesterday, shows that inequitable distribution is not unique to COVID-19 vaccines, with poorer countries consistently struggling to access vaccines that are in high demand by wealthier countries. Limited vaccine supply and unequal distribution drive global disparities. The HPV vaccine against cervical cancer has only been introduced in 41% of low-income countries, even though they represent much of the disease burden compared to 83% of high-income countries. Affordability is also an obstacle to vaccine access. While prices tend to be tiered by income, price disparities see middle-income countries paying as much or even more than wealthier ones for several vaccine products. World Health Organization Director General Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said the right to health includes the right to vaccines. And yet this new report shows that free market dynamics are depriving some of the world's poorest and most vulnerable people of that right. WHO is calling for much needed changes to the global vaccine market to save lives, prevent disease, and prepare for future crises. And on the international scene, Parliament in Kenya has approved the deployment of nearly 1,000 troops for a new regional force in eastern Congo amid questions about $37 million cost for the first 6 months of the mission. A Parliament committee report says the money will be spent on equipment, allowances, and operations for the troops joining the East African Community Regional Force that will support Congolese forces against armed groups. Opposition lawmakers question why Kenya is spending so much money on the regional mission while the country faces its own security issues. Kenyan President William Ruto last week called the mission necessary and urgent for regional security. Violence by armed groups in eastern Congo has led to a diplomatic crisis between Congo and neighboring Rwanda, which accuse each other of backing certain groups. The Kenyan forces will be based in Goma, East Congo's largest city. The regional force, agreed upon heads of state in June and led by a Kenyan commander, also has 2 battalions from Uganda, 2 from Burundi, and 1 from South Sudan. There is a possibility that international financing may be secured for the mission, the committee report said. This has been WEFM's 3 p.m. News. I have been your presenter, Jessica Klein. Join us again at 5:30 for WEFM's Evening News, and we thank you for listening.
WEFM 99.9, home of quality programming. A source of reliable news and information.